There was a time in my life when I was really upset when someone lit the pink candle first. Because it's out of order.
God's grace comes to us in the form of a baby. How amazing. How beautiful and perfect, and yet messy and confusing and everything else that is.
Hi, I'm Todd Anderson, and I'm privileged to be with you here in the Ohio River Valley District, serving alongside of you as we lead our churches together.
And I'm Suzanne Allen, the assistant to the superintendent. And today we're here to think a little bit about the Advent and Christmas season, to encourage you to think about how we are welcoming our community into our congregations.
At Christmas time, we always try to put our best foot forward. Lots of stress and tension happens around the creation of the Christmas worship. But there's another part of Christmas too that we probably should spend some time thinking about. And that is that maybe everything doesn't happen quite as perfectly as we would hope. There's probably a baby that's going to cry during service. Or maybe the choir's a little off key. Or maybe someone dropped a hymnal on the pedals of the organ. It's an opportunity for us to think about how it is that we offer grace to one another when life doesn't happen as perfectly as we'd like it to be.
When we're stressed, it hinders our welcome. Maybe you get so wrapped up in whether there's enough candles or enough communion or the lights getting adjusted that you miss that opportunity. So it's so important to be able to relax and be present to God moving in that moment, and to let those who may never come into your sanctuary except for Christmas Eve, to let them know that they're welcome there and you're glad they're there and they're safe there. They might know they're welcome in theory.
Because your sign says they're welcome.
Right.
But what's the reaction that happens when someone actually walks into the sanctuary and something happens? Will they indeed be welcomed by the way they look or who they are or any other piece that seems to be different? One of the things that deeply moved me a number of years ago was when I ran into the touch test that's been created by Juanita and Rudy Rasmus. They're pastors at St. John United Methodist Church in Houston, Texas. It's one of the most diverse congregations in the connection. And the touch test talks about a wide variety of persons who can be actually found in that congregation. Adjacent to this video, you will see the touch test, and I invite you to seriously look at that with your evangelism team in your local church and others in leadership in the life of your church. It's a real push. There are a wide variety of persons that are on the list that you may not see ever in worship on a Sunday morning, but they're neighbors in your community, and they need the love of Jesus Christ. And it's an opportunity for us to offer that.
Sometimes we think that we're welcome if we're perfect. So we will come in and we will act according to what we think is expected. But we're not going to show who we really are. But somehow in the midst of that, there's a breakdown because grace can't get in, and grace can't be shared. And so the question is, how do we let go of that image of everything being perfect so that we can share grace? Make sure that we are being real so that we can be real in our welcome, so that others can feel safe. Because when that happens, then grace shows up and God's Spirit shows up and people change. And that's really what the Christmas story is about, because there was not much that was perfect at all that night in Bethlehem.
Perhaps the way we can do that is by being vulnerable. Vulnerable enough to say yes to an angel who comes and makes an outrageous announcement. Maybe vulnerable enough to allow the message of peace on earth, goodwill to all, to be shared among shepherds abiding in the field, when shepherds were highly marginalized people in the culture. The vulnerability of welcoming someone from a different ethnicity, or a different sense of religious worship when the Magi appeared to worship and honor and bring gifts. These are the kinds of things that we're thinking about. How it is that we can be vulnerable with one another and be safe with one another so that we can bear gifts to one another and yet receive gifts from one another.